I'm tired of having to work harder to bypass mediocre men.
They went with a guy who had less experience than me.
Women make up 50% of the population. Why is it that we're only about 5% of the below the line workers?
They said our names wouldn't make the slate, so we're calling our own shots. Slated Women Filmmakers. Real opportunities, real sisterhood.
Welcome to Slated Women Filmmakers. I am actually stepping in for Allie today. I am so excited to welcome Jan Kimbrough from the Women's List. We're going to talk a little bit about the Women's List and why it's important. And just to say why Allie's not here, she wasn't feeling well. So thank you for honoring me with your attention so we can get into it with Jan and talk about why the Women's List is so wonderful and important for us. So welcome, Jan.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you very much, Pamela.
Why don't you just first introduce yourself and your project, The Women's List?
I'm Jan Kimbrough, and I'm one of the co-founders of The Women's List, which is a project to shine a light on women feature writers and original TV pilot writers. And we've done it now for 2 years. We've solicited film and TV scripts from women writers and had them vetted by women professional writers, mostly WGA writers, but also some DGA, some SAG, but all industry professionals. We've been doing this for 2 years. We're about to launch into our third year. Submissions will open on February 13th, Galentine's Day, and will be open until May 31st. So it's a long time, but because it's a volunteer group, we need time to read all the scripts. And then when we've read them and we've chosen those that we think are great and are ready to go into production tomorrow, we put the best of them on a list. We had 36 on the first list and 38 on the second year list, but we have no limit. We're looking for as many great scripts as we can find. I always say this is not a script contest because you're not competing against anybody. This is a treasure hunt. So we are just doing this because we feel that it's so important to get women read. It's so difficult for women to get their stuff read. Agents and managers tend to rep a lot more men than women. I think we've probably all noticed that. And you have to often be referred to an agent, and men are more likely to have people who will refer them. If an agent only has one woman, she's not going to refer 1 million people to the agent. So women are limited. We're trying to get around those gatekeepers and give women a chance to get read, meet people, and ultimately get their scripts made.
Wonderful. That's exciting. I personally am excited, but I think the listeners of our podcast are going to be so excited to hear about this if they didn't already know about the Women's List. And timing couldn't be better for us. We're launching, you're about ready to launch your third year open call. Everybody brush up your scripts because the opening on February 13th, right?
February 13th. And it's the same thing as with other contest-like things. It's cheaper early on when we have fewer scripts to read and more expensive later on. So I encourage you to put in the scripts as early as you can.
The early bird rate, pretty standard for other types of competitions too. So how do you enter?
All the details will be on our website, thewomenslist.org. We'll be on a new script platform. If you're familiar with the script world, you probably have heard of Coverfly, but they have shut down. So now new script platforms are coming up, and we've chosen to go with a platform called Scribe, Scrybe. They've got a really great attitude about writers and supporting writers. So we think they're the right partner for us to go with right now. So the platform will be Scribe. It's Scrybe.to.
We'll link to your website, which will have the platform links and all of that for the application for the Women's List for this year. You touched on the goal of the Women's List, but let's talk about why that is so important.
Film and television is the most powerful force in the world for creating the image of women and the perception of women in the world. And yet we don't play an equal role in creating that perception. I get really frustrated when I see women write best-selling books and then they're adapted by men, or men write scripts that are about women, but they clearly aren't women. It's very frustrating. And the men can do a great job, but there are nuances, there are points of view that they just can't get. And all of the people in my group think that those points of view should be represented.
Absolutely, 100%. The points of view and the visuals of how a woman is presented or women are presented on the screen. And if it's not driven by a woman or with a feminine gaze, if you will, then oftentimes we're sexualized, right? Even when
Sexualized
we
or
don't need.
marginalized secretaries and housewives and moms. We're not playing great roles, or if we are something else, we end up being pushed into that anyway, somehow.
Yeah.
Women and the scripts we've gotten so far in the first 2 years have just amazed me, because they're so original and so fun and so fresh. It just boggles my mind every time that some of these scripts have not yet been made. If we want to revitalize the entertainment industry, let's get some of these scripts into production and onto the streamers or into the theaters. I think, it doesn't have to be just Barbie. There are lots of other scripts out there that are wonderful.
Absolutely. It's the stories of women that we have to write. We have to write our own stories. Nobody else is going to write that. Write what you know. And then to your point earlier, there are female-led stories out there, but in many cases, they're mostly written by men or
Yeah, and that gives it a different flavor altogether. So that's one of the main reasons we're doing this, is that we want women presidents and we want women leaders. We want women CEOs. We have some, but we want more. We haven't had a woman president, and I think we need one of those as soon as we can do that.
we need them to be portrayed on screen so that we
Yeah.
all can aspire to that ambition.
Exactly.
Can you talk a little bit more about what makes the women's list a little bit different than a typical screenwriting competition?
Well, for one thing, you're either on the list or you're not. There's no quarterfinalists or semifinalists or anything like that. If you're on the list, you're one of our writers. Because we feel that the quarterfinalists and semifinalists really do harm to women, because they basically say you didn't win. And nobody in this industry is interested in anything but the winners. So all of our scripts are winners. And we encourage people, if they submit and they weren't selected, one, don't tell anybody. Nobody needs to know. And two, rewrite. Submit again and you may get in. And that actually happened in our second year. One of our writers submitted a script that we liked, but it didn't quite gel. And the next year, she submitted a rewrite of that script, and we all loved it. So we put that on the list, and she's been in talks with an Australian producer to make that series. And I don't know exactly how that's going at the moment, but the important part is that she got the opportunity to talk to an Australian producer about making it, and a couple of others, I think. But the Australian producer was particularly interested. And that's the thing. We need access. There are lots of wonderful labs out there that I love. I was part of the Writers Lab supported by Meryl Streep and Nicole Kidman and Natalie Portman, and that's a wonderful thing. I love the women who do that. But after that, once your script is polished, there are often not a lot of avenues for women to take their scripts. And of course, the older they get, the tougher that is. And old starts awfully young. I'm a person of the older persuasion at this point, and to me, 40 is like nothing, But in the industry, it's like, oh, well, what are you going to do in retirement? Women of all ages have something to say. And women from different backgrounds have something to say. One of the women whose script we chose for the first year is actually a firefighter in Montana or Wyoming, I never remember which. It's a great script with great roles for women. And we said, oh, yeah, as we were reading it, of course, we didn't know that, but to discover that afterwards was pretty cool, I thought.
That's great. So you're only going into your third year, but can you tell us a little bit about some stuff that's happened in the requests for script reads?
We're a young nonprofit, so we know it's going to take a few years to develop awareness and credibility and all of that. Once we get the list, we send out personal emails to everybody we can get an email for, and we can actually get quite a few emails. So hundreds and hundreds and hundreds to producers and agents and managers and actors companies and any production companies, you name it. And we've had a great response. Obama's Higher Ground asked for 3 scripts, I believe, and met with several of the writers. Taylor Sheridan's company asked for 3 scripts, and Miley Cyrus's company asked for 1, plus lots and lots of production companies, agents, managers whose names you wouldn't know, but they were interested in the scripts. And some relationships have developed out of that. 2 scripts have been optioned. I think a third is maybe going to be optioned, which isn't bad for the first 2 years. In fact, I think it's pretty good. And for those writers, it's great. They're getting opportunities to build relationships with people that they otherwise would not be able to do. Because we've got nothing to gain in this game. We have no reason to lie to you about the quality of these scripts. We're only doing it to help writers. Agents and managers may not love the scripts, but it's their client and they'll send it out. We're not in that position. We are only pushing scripts we really think are great, and we get nothing out of it. I wish we would.
Yeah. So, right, you're a nonprofit. There's no equity. You're not
No, and we're a
down.
volunteer organization too, so nobody's getting paid. Eventually, somebody will have to get paid because nobody but a few of us will do it for free. But for now, our goal, our purpose, our mission is to help writers, not to sell anything. And another point is that, people think that getting repped is the main thing. Get an agent, get a manager, and then they'll sell your script. Well, very often the agent or the manager doesn't know where to send your script. If it's a horror film or a thriller, yeah, maybe they've got A24's phone number, But if it's not a really powerful genre script, and a lot of women's scripts are different, they're not necessarily in that category, although some are, don't get me wrong. We can compete with the big boys any day. But the list gives producers an opportunity to find things that they don't otherwise know are out there. So they can look at the list and say, oh, yeah, that sounds interesting. I'd like to read that script. As opposed to the agent. The agent might never think of sending it to that producer. How can an agent know what's in the mind of every producer in town? They can't. So this program boosts agents and managers as well. And for agents and managers who are looking for projects for their clients, this is also a great thing. They can see something that otherwise wouldn't get to them, because I think it was Jennifer Lawrence who insisted that her agents not select what projects they sent to her, but to send her everything that was submitted for her. I may be wrong about that, but if that's true, Jennifer Lawrence is great. And if that's not true, Jennifer Lawrence is great.
Pretty great.
She's pretty great. Love her. But because actors often get only projects with money attached, or that the agent has some relationship with the producer, it limits the scope for actors too. It limits the scope for everyone in the industry. The women's list broadens it out so that you can find scripts that are exactly what you're looking for and you didn't even know they existed.
Right. So any woman can apply. Do they have to be repped or not repped?
No, they don't have to be anything but female. They don't have to be of a certain age. The script itself doesn't have to be pro-female. It doesn't have to pass the Bechdel test, though, most of them tend to do that. But we're not putting any restrictions on it. Men have no restrictions on what they write. They don't have to write things that are favorable to men or that have 2 men talking to each other about something other than women. They don't have any restrictions. Women don't need any restrictions either. As it happens, that generally is the case just because of how women relate to people and their characters. I think it tends to be, but no restrictions. You just have to be female. Now, one caveat is that we don't accept scripts written by male-female teams. We tried that the first year and then realized, anybody could then slap a woman's name on the script. And right. I don't think that the people who submitted the first year did that, but we wanted to avoid any possibility of that. So you must be a woman writer and you cannot have a male co-writer.
What about non-binary or if you're trans?
Oh, yes. Well, you have to identify as a woman. The writers can define that any way they want, but this is a project for women. We leave it up to the writers themselves. I'm not going to define who they are. So they can define who they are. And this project is for writers who identify as women, however that works out.
And Jan, it couldn't be more urgent at this time. The study was released by USC Annenberg, and this was about directors, but they specifically were showing that there's been a drop in women directors from 2024. We had been doing pretty good. We were going up, and now there's a drop in 2025. So I think obviously directors, that's a whole nother topic that we need to work on, but it starts with the script, right? So I think having the women's voices in the women's scripts get more attention and be picked up by producers, hopefully they'll lead to more women directors as well.
For women writers or directors, the numbers go up a little and then they drop back down. But we never reach a level of parity where we're equally involved as men. It's never 50-50. And we need women directors to interpret women's material properly. Or if not, you're just back to the same thing of men interpreting what women are doing or what women are feeling or thinking, etc. So we need parity across the board for women. Starting with women writers, because as far as I'm concerned, the script is the coin of the realm. Everything else after that is interpretation, but still, we need parity across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited. So I guess maybe one other question that might come up from our listeners is it's not exactly a competition because you don't lose, you just don't win, you don't make it on the list. But are there notes that you provide?
We don't. We feel that the quality of scripts that we're looking for are tight enough, polished enough that the only notes that matter are from somebody who's paying to make this thing. And we also feel that notes from anybody who's not paying you, who doesn't have a real say in the production, can be harmful to writers. You know, we've all had notes from people who you look at it and go, did they really read the script? Or the note misses something important in the script and they're criticizing you for not having it, but it's there and they just didn't take the time to read it. So we feel that can be damaging. But most important is that we feel these scripts need to be very, very well polished. These scripts are at a level that we could make them tomorrow if we had to, if we could. And that's the kind of script we're looking for. So the great prize here is being on the list and being part of the Women's List group.
Right. And actually, Allie's not here. It was her idea, and we all agreed that we were going to have a panel discussion to brag about those that make the list later on with this podcast. So
I think that
we
would
hope
be
to do that.
fabulous because they're amazing scripts, but also amazing women. It's been a total delight to meet the women behind the scripts. And I think anybody else would enjoy meeting them too.
Yeah, so we'll figure out. We don't know how many are going to be on the list. So make sure you apply as you're listening to this right now. Brush up your script because the submissions open on February 13th, Galentine's Day, and the early bird rate ends on March 7th. So try to get in there and save a few bucks. So if Greta Gerwig applies, is she going to get on the list or how does that work?
Welcome Greta to apply. I would enjoy reading anything she writes. But one of the things that's important in our project is that writers should submit their scripts blind, meaning no name, contact information for a rep, no logos of any contests you may have won, nothing like that. We want the scripts to be just the title and blank page for the rest of it. We don't want anybody to be influenced by the idea that, oh, this is Greta Gerwig. It must be good. Right. I'm sure it would be good, but nevertheless, we don't want anybody to be influenced. Or if it happens to be somebody they know or have run across in various ways, we don't want them to be influenced by it. It's important to us that the submissions be without any identifying information so that nobody can be swayed one way or another.
Awesome. I love that. And genre, any genre, and you don't have any quotas?
No, we are open to anything women are writing. And they're writing amazing things, and across the breadth of it is just astonishing. And there are some readers who love sci-fi or who love horror, and we may steer some of those scripts to them, but we give the scripts, once it passes muster of being properly formatted and all of that, we try to give the scripts at least 3 reads. If it's a good script, it may get more. So it's not just one person reading your script. So we'll maybe funnel it to somebody who loves sci-fi or horror, but then after that, other people will read it too, so that we get a good cross flow of perspectives.
You mentioned it, I think, at the beginning, but just remind everybody, so both feature-length scripts, pilot TV series, but what about short scripts?
No, we're not doing shorts because we're sticking with things that are of a more commercial nature that other people will want to produce and make money out of. The scripts themselves don't have to be commercial. It's not like we're anti-indie films or anything, but shorts just don't have as much of a place to live. I think that's too bad. But we're limiting ourselves to the more commercial forms.
If you have a short script, make it with your phone and submit it to film festivals and then level up to the feature script and submit it to the Women's List.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And-
Or if you've got a short that's really strong, think about whether it can be expanded into a limited series. Think it through. If it's a strong enough story, maybe it should be a feature, and go ahead and do it. I think people think of shorts as being easier. None of it's easy. You might as well go for the whole banana and write the feature, write the pilot, and make it the appropriate length, and see what you can do with that. That would be my suggestion.
Awesome. That's wonderful. Well, this is so great, Jan. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here, and I look forward to reading scripts from people who submit. It's exciting. It's exciting to open up a script and go, oh, wow, this one's hot. It's great.
I can't wait to watch the movies once they're finally made, but we have to start somewhere. So it starts with the scripts, which is, in my opinion, the most important part, quite frankly, of the movie at the end of the day.
Me too. Thank you very much, Pamela. I'm thrilled to have been here. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. And thanks to all of the readers at the Women's List. We really appreciate all of your time and effort. Get to writing and polish your script. Don't forget to apply February 13th. Thanks so much for joining us on Slated Women Filmmakers for real opportunities and real sisterhood.